Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, maybe for a few of us. What a wonderful forum once again, which demonstrates the multidisciplinary research, but also the thought of obtaining input from experts from different parts of the world. This is also a learning for me, not just for our Indonesian friends. I will now share my presentation, but before that, to express congratulations and thanks to my brother, Sir Gofur,
You're welcome.
my sister, Dr. Muthmaina, eminent dignitaries and rectors, and of course, special thanks to our Master of Ceremonies, Jeffy. Okay, so when I was thinking about how I would structure this presentation, I thought about what activities we have experienced in the last week or two. 2022, not 2021 or 2020, when we had lots of uncertainties with the pandemic. We had new mechanisms of online interaction for learning and interactions. So one of the learnings we have, which I thought would be most interesting for consideration as part of the first virtual international conference on multidisciplinary research, is global and local challenges which can be embedded within the curricula of primary schools, secondary schools, and universities. Now, the mechanisms here do encapsulate science, education, technology, but also society. So we need, and I say we, everyone in the education environment and society, we need to push for excellence in pedagogy. We have noticed, and I will touch on one aspect today, the technical depth. When I was a student many years ago, we spent a lot of time focusing on the technical aspects, grammar, the rationale for why and how photosynthesis occurs, the biochemistry. In law, the underlying reasons why the law of equity has become ever so prominent in our society, looking back even at practices over the last few centuries. What is missing, we have noticed, is the technical depth, both amongst primary school students, university students. And I have this illustration here of fatty acid oxygenation, which sounds very fancy. But for the students who are studying in this area, if you ask them, how does the interaction occur within the cytoplasm, the endoplasm reticulum, within the various components within the cell, please trace that for me and justify what that has an impact with vaccinations, athletes, exercise, and people who are obese. And they have no idea because they're not able to relate what we see in society back to a biochemical level. Similarly, in other disciplines, that's a major concern for us. The ability to question statements is being lost. I'll give you an example which is live. I sit on an advisory board of a course at a local university in Australia and have done so for almost 20 years. And as a member of industry, the university, come to us and they say, we have this program for the students. You and others will employ them. Is that program and its structure relevant for the needs of the employers? Now, the employers are in industry, research, as well as academia. We are seeing a worrying trend with the economic challenges to universities in the West. they are cutting out a lot of elements that are very important. And for example, some of the laboratory experiments, which as a former microbiologist we had to do, are now being cut and replaced with a virtual. Let's watch someone else in the laboratory mix chemicals, conduct using their hands on various activities, and then analyze the results. That is an extremely dangerous development. It might improve efficiency for a university and their cost base, absolutely. But if a graduate enters the workforce and doesn't know how to put on a lab coat, doesn't know how to mix chemicals, is not sure which chemicals to sterilize and which ones not to sterilize, what happens if there's an accident, manual dexterity, mixing chemicals, we have a problem. Because industry will say, stop, you can't come in, you're not ready. So therefore there's training. And the industry says, well, hang on a second, maybe we also should not be in that space. Maybe we should have this element undertaken offshore, this lab testing. That's a loss of a competence in the community, in research, at university. And whilst we endorse new technologies, virtual reality, augmented reality, activities online, we have to find that boundary. Where is it where it is not working, and where is it where it is working? For example, in the younger children, when the iPads came out, there was a big fashion of, we're going to put kids now will no longer be writing, they will undertake their activities on the screen and increase efficiency, etc., etc. What did we find? And now we have at least 10 years of experience. What have we found? That the children, when they don't have the ability to write with a pencil, when they don't have the ability to also use other forms of cognition, they can't communicate as well. Their neuro-linguistic functioning has substantially dropped. So therefore, what have we seen? We've seen a transition back to the way most of us were taught as kids. So technical depth is the big unmet need, if I put it in business speak, for our next 2-3 generations. Please make sure technical depth is taught at the various levels. In the West, we are suffering substantially because of that deficiency. Graduates are coming out, even lawyers are coming out, and you couldn't put them in front of a judge. You couldn't put them in court. You'd be too scared for them to draft contracts. They're missing the technical depth. So this is an area where I know your universities that already have a very strong interest in fundamental learning, reinforce, and you will find major competitive advantage, and employers will be knocking on your door saying, can we please take your graduates? We love what you're doing, the depth of the pedagogy. Now, also when I was thinking, it's like, hang on a second, I deal with technologies helping communities in different parts of the world. So not American technologies for America, it could be technologies from India, for Africa, etc., for Indonesia, for Philippines. So where's a great opportunity here for a reconfiguration, slight evolution, not a dramatic change of education. As the children and students are taught within their disciplines, throw challenges at them. And the challenges should not be as big as climate change necessarily. It should be challenges in your local community. And that's really important, because when a student connects with a local problem that exists within 100 meters, 200 meters, a kilometer, 5 kilometers within the nation of Indonesia, within the international community, all of a sudden, the students, you're asking them to be creative, and they are inherently creative and talented. They can take their learnings, their technical depth, and see if they can come up with solutions to these challenges. Now, why is that interesting in a global connectivity format? Well, you know the answer to that because this is an example at this time of your university and your ecosystem using global connectivity through people like me and speakers from those wonderful organizations that you will hear from today, and through the MOUs, which have been very strategically and cleverly designed and signed. So big congratulations from me for that. But the global connectivity that you are undertaking will allow you to access to awareness. What's going on in Australia, in South Korea, in India, in Egypt, we've said, in Africa, in Europe, etc., etc. What are the challenges? And we're seeing big challenges now in the area of food crisis, not necessarily due to the current conflict between Russia and Ukraine, but also impacted from that. You're able to be involved in participation, not just buying their products and solutions, but also participating in the challenges in other parts of the world. This is wonderful for academic research. Absolute minefield, gold mine of opportunities. And you can employ problem-solving mechanisms you have in your local community, in your ecosystem, to solve these other international areas. Now, what happens when you do that? You develop what we call here centers of excellence, whereby your university or universities are known as having expertise in particular areas, but really deep expertise. And you will find that there will be research and development and collaborative opportunities within the academic community and outside with the commercial community and social community, because they recognize you have deep expertise. That's a great asset to have. But also, when you have that deep expertise, you are attracting expertise. You will have academics, researchers, students, industry collaborations, government saying, please help us. They will be coming to you for your expertise. So that little screen picture of should you be local, national, or global, it's actually neither of those. It's all of them. And it also enables you to communicate needs and to be a local adopter, a lead adopter for local needs. So if you find interesting opportunities, interesting learnings in different parts of the world, you can be the lead adopter for your local need solutions as well. So what is happening post-pandemic? Now, we are technically not in post-pandemic, but let me tell you, everyone is behaving as though we are. In this part of the world, the city that I'm from and the state, Victoria, Melbourne, has achieved a record very few people would like to have. And I would not wish that record on your cities or nation. The longest lockdown. We were shut down for many, many months. Thousands of businesses have collapsed. Lots of people were under mental anguish. In India, they had access problems to resources from other major powers during COVID, during the lockdowns, during the restrictions. And they said, as did many other countries, and that's not good enough. They said, why should we be in an element of risk just because we previously we had wonderful globalization mechanisms, It's been tested, and we found that our dear friends in other parts of the world closed the doors on us. So self-reliance has been remodeled. Relationships have been remodeled. That means wonderful opportunities for your organizations to connect, as you, again, tactically and strategically have through these forums with partners from many parts of the world and through MOUs. So in terms of science, education, and technology, you will see an application expansion. You will be able to obtain technologies, learnings, pedagogy systems, neurolinguistic models in order to assist your in-depth as well as expansion across your grouping. And there will be accelerated economic models. Now, what do I mean by that? In the field of climate change, for example, technologies that were previously used for industry, for heavy industry, manufacturing, or residential or corporate, are now being reconfigured and used for food crisis management, environmental management, not only in first world countries, but in developing countries as well. And that's a great thing because you can leverage that for local, national, and international applications. We're also seeing, for example, technologies in the renewables area being developed through 3D printing. So rather than manufacturing in the United States, you get the software, you have a 3D printer locally, it could be in a village, a couple of buttons, you produce the items, you have someone locally compiling it, manufacturing it, and using it. So these are the sorts of activities that are emerging, and this is a great opportunity for your university groupings and those connected with today's forum to take stock of and provide some local leadership in. So last slide, in summary, an international view is required with a local context. Pedagogy excellence in terms of depth is, I think, a necessity. You need to engender excellence across the board. I'm not saying that you don't, but that is a differentiator to what we're seeing across most education institutions around the world. And we have a new pathway and a new reality.